Good morning. It's very nice to see you all come back for a second day. I thought maybe the classroom would be empty today. Today I thought we would start off again just with a few introductions. Your name, and I think for now we'll stick with what animal would you like to be, okay, and why. All right. What is your name? Jamyam? Gatsu. An animal he would like to be?
Zo. So he said one animal, so he'll search what's the name of animal in English. So I don't know what is that. It's found in Tibet.
What kind of animal is it?
It looks like a goat.
Oh, okay. Is it a wild one though, up in the mountains?
Okay, it stays in the wild.
Why would he like to be that?
It eats grass on the mountains.
And it's free.
Yes. Because I like to climb on mountains.
Oh, scary. Sir, your name?
Lobsang? Namgir. Lobsang Namgil.
Okay. What animal would you like?
Semje khari chendu dus. Semje khari chendu dolas.
You can't ask him.
Khari chendu mede. Kera khari chendu mede susu share ko tie he mare sayo. La. Yeah. Fishes in water.
Oh yeah, why?
Nya chendu khachin dosa. Mil roba chigre. Nya big. He said he likes dolphins.
Dolphins. Yeah, they're very smart. Yeah. They're very smart.
He said it helps human beings, so he likes dolphins.
Just fish and everything. Yeah.
Tenzin. His name is Tenzin.
Tenzin, nice to meet you.
Tomta. Cow da naku de de. Panda.
Panda. Why?
Khachini res. Khachini go. Shide. It's a peaceful animal.
Yeah.
Shide chen shimba kharsunbe. It's very rare.
They're very close to their environment. They can only eat that one food, so there's a selection for them to that's why they're rare.
The Kumbures chick the Harchadurlana, say Rish, Damila Sayu Mare, say Chigran Sayu Resti, any Kurudina Lohon, Taran de Digures. His name is Tempa.
Tempa, okay.
A dolphin. Okay, he likes to be a dolphin.
Yeah. Have you seen the ocean?
Gaso Tonyo USA. Yes.
Dolphins are very smart animals. They're mammals, even though they look like a big fish, they're mammals like us.
His name is Takpa Gyaltsen.
Okay.
Karikoye. Ribong. A rabbit.
A rabbit.
Karishini. Shimba Lomne King Maris and Shimbadi. Changbu. Okay, so it's an intelligent animal, smart, and also it does not harm others.
Okay, very good. One more maybe. That's it. Good. Yeah.
His name is Ludu.
Ludu.
Ludu, yeah. And he wants to be a parrot.
I think that's what started. Parrot?
Yeah,
Why?
a bird, because it's a bird and it can fly.
Uh-huh.
And also that he learns human language and it can speak as well. So.
Right. I've seen the parrots that can talk too. So some of them I think are smart. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. We've talked already about a few ideas. I'd like you all to take a few minutes to just write your thoughts on your journals about what we've discussed so far, and then maybe we could have a little discussion in 5 minutes.
아니 수수 단다 신진나로 제스 단다바도 가르치어서 내줘라 이 신진나는 안디 젤라니 가서 말아서 조들쳐고스 단다 신진나일란 까마하시 주요스.
So I would be very curious to hear your thoughts. I think this side, there will be things we will agree upon based on what Megan taught us yesterday about fossils and so on. And this side, I don't know what to expect to hear from you all. So why don't we start with what I think might be some things we could agree on easily. So anybody thoughts on what do we see and know about that would tell us that evolution is accurate, is true?
그런중에 삼수 거리 메디 군도 쇼두스 다 디나라 예초스도 이티오니디 차도 예초디 가르라나다 단다 페규 중요레슬라니 빵다 거리 메디레스 디갈라니 단다 케사 게 메겐 게 키란솔라 규르도다 딘데 콜레셰스와스 디 참마다 키란솔 모튜유야 참마디나 추유로스 다 파조 모델다 거리리요 메삼주 거리 메 단다 셰통마레스 키란중에 제자 당보 고수에디 다 상메 모튜유로 빵다 거리 메디네 고수이스 안디 토라 신긴 수요스
강아조 주암만 내마 안에 나마 사사크 탄다 리파이완다부터
So we have tailbone, the remnants of tailbone. So this is the evidence that evolution had. Yeah. Anishiba, race.
Here we can share the pain here. Somebody else? Oh, good. We have volunteers. Thank you.
So fossil is one of the strongest evidence.
Right.
Niri chikpa injo denzo. Niri chikpa denzo. So we see that different organs of the same species are similar. So this is also evidence of evolution.
Okay, fantastic. There's somebody back there.
Ani gyab ne chik dusa.
Oh.
Chik.
Go ahead first.
So the drifting of the continents has led to evolution of different species. That's also an evidence.
Right. And you can see those fossils. If these two pieces of land used to be close and moved, before that happened, you'll see fossils similar across the continents.
제가 니 링텐 주 야마 카체르 레주라 디 마치모라 디니기 주르도 디타와나 오마 냠 뉴요르 라워라 링텐이디 디니기 주르도 라교드 주타와나 디니 타오 차기요레스.
So exactly right. There's someone way back.
So we were taught that we can see diverse forms of life, and there is a common ancestor for all of us. So this is evidence of an evolution because we can see diverse forms of life now.
Right. Do you think evolution is fighting with Buddhism or no?
다 낭슈다 gelgi dulani dende roji chagi doesa jingdeo nangshi thanda di nangchu phelgyur ladi 낭슈다 gelgi doesa di jingdingi roji chagi doesa phasu tindur chingi roji dingi no it's not
You don't have to please me, you can say.
인지 비징가 가치고 말했어 가리요 됐어
바로 나다 페이지는 그 페이지 게시로 다 요거 그냥 사탕 이런 거로 빼라 낸지 바타오 이런 데가에 안에 내 가서 이런 데도 뭐 야시로 루틴 페이지 모델을
So one of the best example I have found for evolution is when we sow one seed, it gives like when we sow a seed of a grain, it gives many grains. So this is also
Right, things. And each one might be a little different depending on how it responds to the environment, maybe.
dila du druchik tab tu drumangbu ki roas drumangbu ki ju di changma lo cha di roas.
Now, will evolution ever end? So evolution stops today.
Ta phelgyur da thari jam shawainas ra.
All the fish that are here never change. Human beings never change 10,000 years from now. All the trees will not change. Could that happen?
Ta thari jam shawai che ni midin zo gyuro che lo tijik jalata wa ne gyuro che myo che thana shi thanda nyari din zo ge gyuro che myo chishing din zo shingdon din zo gyuro che myo den de chungsigi rues. No, it's not possible.
If evolution ended, what might happen to life?
Ta kesi phelgyur jam shawai na ani cheso la khari shugen tigres khari chungres. There will be extinction of species.
Exactly, and we have to. All species are always responding to their environment. So
res ngaranzo nyeri khande chine khorula yalinte dinge dinde chadu res.
that very smart guy that I quoted yesterday said, if evolution is what has created life on this world and what will keep it going.
Say colleague la ngarazu jamning dingala ne chungi chi khari cha deula na se da phelgyur di cha de res phelgyur do di res di kenge ani seso di mutuni ne la di shi res
ni kaso phelgyur da no no maso mo kata ni samanje se ko kim kiran ki ni samanje so te to ba sa de te no ji so ni Lord is Congress. So Congress tali mata ni kakin chi shi je mo so na ni so no ni te chi ko na ni so Congress ti ji ni inji ka so no kolan ti ta ni to ka ti ni pe pe ni ka ri na ni so no to
kola khari sunbe gala kola rang ni Tikarla.
I can hardly wait to hear your translation.
Sorry, he said like since you have said like we have a common ancestor.
Yes.
Everything started from a single organism. So I have a doubt on that. So he said like you have stated that it has started with a protein. So that protein we can say that it might have formed on other planet as well, not just on the Earth. The first protein.
Right. Yes.
So isn't it possible
that?
Ani thangbo di say kola maimba shimba le yong chug roas le ni ra.
Exactly.
Ra.
He's.
So you're just concentrating on saying that it has started from a protein. So why is this like? He feels it's kind of narrow-mindedness. You're just concentrating on a single protein.
I think we would say that we don't exactly know, but we have our reasons. Proteins. The fact that every everybody has DNA makes us think that that's the original molecule that started life.
Ta thanda takta jida she tu yo mari sine ngaran su samsu khari yor law na kingo khande jikta hoy na ngazuna DNA yores DNA la du ba matu hoy na thanda tiga ni du barlan shi yoras the di dudul dende rawjini gotsuk reslan sangna ge di chi yores sam ge yores.
When I had to take a test as a student, one of the questions was make an argument that all life started from protein.
Ta Quran so thanda gela Quran lok tu imbe kap su thiwa jile sons tina khar thiwa khar tang shalana kherang zungi ni ta thangbo gochunge thanda kingo khande jim ba na cheso gochunge thangbo gochuk sa di tigar res lani di galani kherang zu len thi lani ti thiwa tang shas.
Okay. Did you want to get onto the fight?
So scientists think that life started with RNA, which is similar to DNA, and we have some reasons for that.
Right.
자 체리바이 가리스 삼개월 라와이나 단다 체소디 고츠에 당분이 RNA 라 두둘 저래 데니 고츠르란 시요 삼개월레스 아니 RNA 라디 가리 로열라나 두둘 DNA 로열레스.
So RNA can both carry genetic information, and it can also do catalysis. It can make chemical reactions happen just like proteins can.
다 RNA 라 저래디 칸디얼라나 DNA 나시 쿠란 수기 단다 the first one you said is it can copy,
Carry
right?
the genetic
Okay. Rigze duze jora nesu di nyangye jik chade rest duduldi. Anchi career law na kurangi thanda subu nanglo ge je jur din zu joro ta jora di an chiyo rest RNA din zu ge.
So
Tigar nangshi.
So we think life started with RNA because it could do both of those things. And when we look at some of the most ancient cellular components, they have RNA at their center. So the ribosome has protein and RNA together.
Dila duta kengwe na tawa na nyamani ningshu chade yo jora din zu tawa na chashi din zu tadu gola de peshana ribo thasu la jora din na tadu gola tigar da RNA din zu thoya yo res.
So we think life began as RNA doing everything, and then it evolved where DNA took over carrying the genetic information and proteins took over doing the chemical reactions.
Dila duta thambo gochuk du RNA gi gochuk res khanan RNA di laga ni ka tup chawani ka tup thu res anjala pelgi du RNA sabla ni DNA gi thanda rigze ni chu nya da din sama DNA gi lewa che den des chares pelgi tun thambo gochuk du RNA ni res lan shi res.
There are viruses, now whether you call them alive or not, there are viruses that just have RNA as their genetic material.
An thana shi virus lan thusin da ni sin din lan simbu da den shagda dende rigna lagi nganzu gita Quran su gi rigze gi duchata hoina harior lana RNA ni gi res.
Okay, first sign. So in preparing for coming here, I think one of the things that struck me most was our timeline that we have still strung up in the back.
Ta thanda di kiran so chi khari da ta cha de lan nganzu thudi ji so bas di thanda engaro zo di chigwa la ya chang sha res ku badi.
Some of these slides that are projecting, it may not be exactly the same as the handout because we added or subtracted things.
Ta thanda kiran sul ma sho butam so di ani thanda gang la lobti shio kap su slide ta tuen di da ani khashi thungu mares khaina na jela ngazu jot na res khashi na nyumbe ge khashi na ma meo so res chezan patim ba khashi thungu res kiran so.
So if the Earth formed 4.5 billion years ago, almost a quarter of the time until now, there was no life.
Ta thanda sai kola di khadu chung lawa na therbum shi chek nga khong la chung res lan di shi yo res ani thande ni dur wa na shi ja chik tangwe la ta du gola ani shini ani thanda cheso thangbo di chung di.
And a very long time was just single-celled organisms.
Ani thangshu di khari chagur lawa na thabum kyang dengi ani kengwe di chagur res.
And we're just at the very tip of time. We're very new.
Ta thuju di ne ji do adela dela khari la na nganzu chadu res thanda ta sarshu ro sawaji chadu res.
Another way is if I'm time, my shoulder is the Earth was born. This is time.
Ta di thui imbai na sra la padi ani thanda this is the time Earth was born, right?
This is when the Earth was born. It's in my armpit.
Sai kola chunge jora deni gochu chi sha
At my shoulder.
Pumba deni.
It's not until about my here at my forearm that we had cells that had a nucleus.
다 디잠레 두갈 안 간조 타봉 테닝 요 타봉 조라 디 계시시요 레스.
All of the great explosion of plants and animals is here at my knuckles.
딜라드 탄다 랑베 네 델리도 디잠레 두갈 디 투디 춘교라 디가스레 두갈 아니 탄다 지싱다 심제 상마 통해 레스.
Humans are not even my fingernail.
딜라드 타 밀라 두갈 탄다 게 주구체 탄다 세무체시도 세무시도 델라 일리요 마레스.
And I cut them short.
디 아니 충르타 에스 나다.
Other ways people, you might see this on the internet, is the earth is an hour.
직 탄다 타제날 따나 세콜라 카리츠엘라나 추즈직날 뜬샤레스.
There are all these ways to mark time, but you can see everything is bunched up at the very last hour, and people in the last minute or so.
딜라두갈라 참마 디 추즈디날 듀샤두갈라 타마지다 델라 아니 간조 미디 디날 추샤레스.
So first modern man is in just the last minutes before midnight, or before the hour passes.
딜라두갈라 까마 타마지라 건다 추즈 중이 마심 콘라 까마치기라 디갑서 아니 드로미 땡두 드로미 차와 덴데테 레스 추즈디나.
It'd be fun to know what's coming up in the next hour.
디기 젤라 추즈주라 딜 카르 중고메 하고요 마레스 마옹바 차데라.
So today we're going to touch a little bit on what are the mechanisms, the molecules that have contributed to evolution.
딜라두 펠규 드웰라타 디둘 카리기타 디치르 람데치르 레저라 디 리요 레스 추와지.
You can see all around us naturally variation. How many different ways people can look just in this room, let alone around the world.
단당 하루조타 잠니나 따와인 바이너리 지당기 강바디 징강직나 따와이너게 민다와 망부시 통고 도스디 규케 민다와 망부시 통고 요레스.
How many different, I've seen dogs here that are this big, and big ones, and white ones, and black ones, all kinds of variation in that species, just here.
다 대하랑 따와이너게 키릭 딘조 따와이너스라 프랑스 나로 규케 통해 레스 키카시 수부링아 충아치 대하나시 카도 따와이너 가오 나고 카도 다미도 통해 레스.
On the other hand, for thousands of years, farmers have been trying to not let things vary, but to keep their flock all of a certain kind that's to the advantage of the farmer.
딜라주다 싱바 호란소에 가르치고라나 다 릭민도 요르데 수수기 소자냐에 주라 디릭데니 직바스에 직송수에 데데 탐지치고 레스 싱바 호란소고니.
This is meant to be a person, I think. This picture. Showing that we, within us, have different organs.
딜라도 미직 숭교 레스디가 안 미직 나라조에 수분랑라 왕보 민저 망보 요르와스.
Inside of us are big organs like our liver or our stomach, little organs like our gallbladder.
다 왕보 침보도 차샤오이나 침바다 덴조 차교 레스 침바다 포와다 덴조 왕보 충아도 차샤오이나 아주 티뇌다 덴조 추교 레스.
All these organs are made of cells. The cells in the liver look different than the cells in my muscle.
다 왕보 리레타오이나 코란소이 타봉 민저 차데레스 베샤오이나 침베기 타봉기 단다직 따오이나 아니 왕보 심바기 타봉 따오이나 민저 차데레스 코란소 나로로로로 요레스.
But at their essence, they all have a nucleus in which our genetic material resides.
네 타봉 차잔나 따두가라 마 나로 따오이나 카리르라나 테닝 디요레스 디 나로랑 아주 릭제 이규차 디요레스.
The material in there has to be very tough and stable.
디 나로 규제 디 타부체 엔 대하나시 아니 템부지 구구요레스.
This nucleus, let's say that's in my liver, has the genetic material that makes my eyes brown and not blue.
딜라두다 탄다 디 날 테닝 주다 디 차샤오이나 디 날 차요레스 다 왕보 하르테요라나 침바라 디 아니 디 나로 규체 하리르라와나 게 미디 갸목 토야디 디 나로 요레스 규체디.
The nucleus in my toes has the material to make the proteins that allow my muscles to contract.
타나시 강베 주부세 주라 주부데 주 차샤온 디 나로 야 테닝 요라 타봉 두샤디 디 테닝 디 가리 땅진 치고라나 예샤네 야마 요구체 디 땅진 치고레스.
The idea is this is a very stable molecule so that it can be inherited from generation to generation.
딜라두 탄다 두둘 디 템부 슈지 차요레스 템부 인상 아니 리규칙니 마마마 드로디고레스디.
So this genetic material that's in the nucleus is in people, in eukaryotes, packed into structures that look like chromosomes.
Di nanglo gize shi dos. Di ani du ni khari chagur la hoina tanda nanglo ta hoina di chobung di res chromosome la di.
And we'll talk about pairs of chromosomes because we get a chromosome from our mother and our father both.
Ta tanda di chobung la chi da di ani phada mani ga ni ra res.
You may think that this is a pair, but it's not. This is a single chromosome.
Ta khiran samba phama ni ra di ro samgu ras chik chik di. Mare es khailan di chashi ro ni tongu da. Ni ga chobung chik chungyu res.
These two might be a pair.
Ta cha la hoina di da di ni cha yingi res.
It's drawn as two because the way we see chromosomes is when cells divide. We can see them really good. And these chromosomes are about to divide. One go to a daughter cell and one go to another daughter cell.
Dila du chabung de kha ke dugal an nganzo thadong chishini ta du dende ro thonggu res. Chabung de seu thonggu res. Ani chik di ani tanda jala chabung ni lo goi ru ras ani chaga cha do dende yungu res chabung de zo.
So, to remind you, this is a cell that happens to be clear. This is a real picture under a microscope.
Thadong chishini ta we parmone gya sha jo di chabung de zo par res.
So here's where the cell is actually dividing and the genetic material is being passed faithfully to each daughter cell.
Dila du galta na jung chabung ni chayor la ra chabung kha ke ni. Dila du ani tanda chabung de zo ya kha ke ni par di cha de res.
So in order for that to happen, these chromosomes had to make copies of themselves. So this one could go this way, this one could go that way. These two are a pair. Let's say this is from the father, this is from the mother. We make sure that each daughter cell gets one whole chromosome from each parent.
Dip cha sha na dini cha do shan digyo res. Sobung la cha yor chik phani chik mani la gora. Pe sha na di phani imbai na di mani imbai na thabung di khage ma chi khong la ni khoran chu da shu chi gu res sobung di zo. Di da shu chi ani khaki yor res chal.
So before it does that, this is a pair, this is a pair. And then these are chromosomes making copies of themselves.
Dila du dinzo cha di cha yor res. Dini cha che ni di cha che dini cha che. Ani jela di sobung di khoran gi da shu chi so yor res de.
I think otherwise it's just confusing some of the slides. It's just background. Okay. So we have 23 pairs. People have 23 pairs. But it's not as if more pairs means we're bigger or smarter or better. Many organisms have more chromosomes than us.
Tanda ngara zo draw mi cha sha na di subu nang lo thabung nang lo chubung kha zo yor la na cha nyu shi cha sum yor res. Ani tanda mi na nyu cha sum do ani kengwe shemba na loga cha de res. Dila du chubung manga na changa yor ya ga yor che yor la di chungu yor ma res.
So dogs and goats, for example, have more chromosome pairs than we do.
Dila be sha na ta kido cha sha na chubung sum su gu thi das di ngzo le manga yor res.
And don't ask me why, I don't know.
Then the Karachin Relani Tiomata Anga the Shingi mess.
So in these chromosomes is a coil. It's like a really well-round spring almost of our genetic material called DNA.
Chobung la di tang azu chu sha juro de ji cha de res khari chu la na azu DNA jora di chu na ani chobung de ji cha res.
These are how chromosomes look under a certain kind of microscope. Some are little, and some are very big. We'll talk about their structure maybe in a next slide, but this is how they look fuzzy. This is all DNA wrapped up. If I could stretch this out, it would go all the way across to the city.
That chobung de ta du gal de res khashi ringa do khashi chunga de res. That di khari chagor la na di chobung de res. Chobung di khari dur la na da DNA res la ra. Dine ni them bai na DNA thungura. DNA thuni them bai na kyasa pato ya thena the res di ko padi.
Every cell in your body has 2 meters of DNA, and it's coiled so much that it can fit inside the single cell.
Thabung rere nang la an thandang ju DNA ta oina meter ni res. Ya di chi oina le oina sra. Di chu ne an thanda chunju chane ani chromosome chayo was. Thabung rere nang khaju la na DNA ya manna roina meter ni res.
So it's all coiled in something you can't even see.
Dila du chu sha ju cha de res shu chu che ni nganzu shira seu ma to DNA di seu thong yo ma res.
This is another picture. You can see it's looking a little more fluffy.
Dige yang parji gasha jures ani shira siu meo roji masela roj thungu resti.
A big accomplishment of recent biology was to know the DNA order of all of our chromosomes, all of our genetic material.
Dilo de chi kharisa nye chunyo la na ngachu kemi rikwana la. The DNA khari yume jura di phangrim todan ro di rimba di nye res.
And I think people were very disappointed first to find out that we had fewer genes than a fruit fly.
Ta danda khorim di nye la ra DNA. Di nye du khashe khari nyobr la oina tanda ngachu busin chunju jura shingdol khordinge. Di burik da durwaina rigze mila nyunga dusla ni khoran zunye ran di nyogres.
Somehow we thought that we were more complicated, therefore we would have more genes.
Dilo du ngachu nyogzin che dro mila di nyogzin che du kala khoran zui khar sangor la oina rigze manga yo roj samyores.
A large part of all this chromosome material doesn't make a protein, but is regulating how our genes are used.
Tanda mangche chashe mangche khari chigor lana DNA nala trigger to di maim bache ine ngazu rigze di khandes phiju tang du tangje chinge di chade res.
Even though we only have 30,000 genes, we can have great diversity between human beings.
Ta rigze ngara zu mi na ta oina ani tonda sumju sures andi tanda ngara zu mi khoran zu nang laim bane minda ro thong ros.
These two people are both great athletes. This man was a jockey. He professionally rode horse races.
Khoran ta tangi res ro khoran gi mingla jaki res chele ba res.
And guess what sport he was good at? Basketball.
Ko khari le yabu yo do dus silbol la basketball la yabu res ko.
As different as they look, their DNA, their genetic material is 99.99% the same.
Ta du gal khebar shu dos ine ma rigzel ta oina DNA la ta oina kya gubju gorgu chek gu khorang thungu res.
Here are two other people that I think don't look that's similar, and the same thing. Their DNA, if you would look at every piece of it, is almost identical through all the chromosomes.
Dila duta ngonjo chobung na ma DNA ta oina khorang ta du loga res. DNA ta du gal yan changma chikba roji cha de res kya gubju gorgu chek gu de.
So, what's DNA? Here's this chromosome, we're unwinding it, and then we unwind it to all these things are stretched out, and finally we get to see its structure.
Andi thabung nangi chobung di res ra an chobung di ma tro oina chu do di chu di ma tro oina ani jal thama dine ma le du gala ani DNA di ra res.
It's a molecule that has two strands that are wound around like a spiral.
Di khar lana dudul di ani kubani yo do che chu sha jo chu su imba de ju res.
The sort of action part of it is where these is what's linking these two strands together. They're called base pairs.
Ta tanda de ni thu de dos di ni di khar la wala na phusung la yo res base pair le de.
So this is a molecule of DNA. These are the base pairs, and it's held together as if it's a ladder twisted.
Ta di DNA ge dudul di res and di nanglo ta oina phusung do cha chik di sama phusung la yo res base pair le. And then sta du gala kenza do yo res kenza chu sha jo.
The parts that are facing each other are the parts that give it its specific code for making proteins.
Ta di chik thu dos di thu jo di ani jela khoran chu gi tigar nge change nge theraba ju suya di da di nyar di nge cha de res.
Okay, so next. So this is the backbone of that spiral, but these are the parts that are unique.
Tanda chu su ju do dudul di ge ani gabru ro di cha de res captain shizadi ani mixe khari cha de lana din zu cha de res.
And they're drawn as if they have a sharp pointy end or a circle end. That's just to try to get across an idea.
Ta di tanda this no rosten da sursum ro khashi gogo rosten res di kharjin lana kheran suita go suita be den des chido ani diremu den de res.
The idea is that this base is always paired with this base. Their structure is such that they fit really nicely together and have certain attractive forces between them.
Ta dela chik chajik shadwa ya chik Didan dini cha sugures. Kaiduna dini nyamdo di chingjor chigures kwani.
And likewise for these. So an A is always facing a T, and a C is always facing a G.
Chesa ani dela A tijo de kaduna karida karil kacho tendirla na T nyamdo tendires. Thana shi C imbaina G la kacho tendires.
So here would be one part of the spiral, one side lining up with A's, C's, T's, and G's, and then it would be automatically facing and sitting together with its partner.
Di ngela chusugi cha chikten ra. Di ani dela yores. Di nala A, T, G, C lan yores. And di kacho tensa ani korangi kanda chusugi kuba shimba jura. Di la ani korangi nyamdo pensu jadu yores.
So here's this DNA all strung out, and here's these A, T, all this stuff that goes to this end. So it might, we'll just pretend that a gene starts here and stops there.
That this DNA didul du chungyo res ra di nalo thananga zo A T G A C la di sama chudyo res tangara zo ikari chisho chigyo la na di go chuksa che and di zamsha sa tindish sigyo res.
And the same idea here, those other things that you saw are the backbone, but this is the parts that are being partners with each other.
Ta thanda ni cha digyo la jora di ki di cha de res and di chu ni kubash to di en korangi ta gyabden jisa gyabru ro tindish chagyo res.
When a gene or a piece of DNA wants to send out a message, it opens up like this. It makes a message that will kind of skip over that, and that message then goes to a protein.
Then you go to rest, they go to the daji tigger rest, and the daddy mutu to she no and jala tigger to rest.
But that message is RNA, the molecule Megan mentioned.
The dinner needs to sugar Laura, the any carlana RNA la the chaggy rest.
So here's some of those bases lined up. They're lined up in sets of 3.
That on the base la jora, the any Koransugi Tigdang Hadir Lana sum the digger rest Tigdandi.
These sets of 3 are called the genetic code.
Dilla Dutanda, the sum yam do dido a chachikchini. Dilla Harla Orlana Rixe Sanda la res.
All of our DNA in us is called our genome. The Human Genome Project was to figure out all these bases in a human being.
Mi genome ki lechar lejora dina tadugal harlana di nanglo thanda yigish to khari mit sangmatse dicha res.
When the DNA sends out its message, these 3 means that the cell is going to put an amino acid called alanine here from this DNA.
This sum ki khari dakhior laoina di nanglo la. Kuranjo sumnyam do duale ani ngonzugi amino cure alanine la di sugu reslan di ni su di restila.
The next 3 through the message will do another amino acid, the next 3 another amino acid, the next 3 until it grows and you have a protein.
Da rere gi ani amino cure rere ni su nya di res. Dila dugal jala changmanyam do thuaina amino cure den zo chazangyam do thudu gala an tigar rubge res.
Okay, all right so far?
Tigas podu seu chasuesa.
You can think about it. If your genetic code is changed, your DNA, when the cells are dividing, your DNA goofs up and makes a mistake, it could be good or bad.
Ta tabung subunalo tabung kha gigur lara tabung pelgiora kha kedugala DNA di dashu chidugal kabre nindrisho niya di chigures kangi tigures.
So
kabre pengures kabre nugures di nindrisho di.
So if this 3 usually has a GCA, maybe it makes a mistake when the cell divides and it becomes GCG.
Tanda dido chasha na GCA disumgi chik sugura dige ne tanda nindri shone ani a dig sabla G chawai nasra.
In this case, that's not a change hardly. That's not a change at the protein level because both of those will put the same amino acid there.
Tadi a di G la gyur resra gyuroina ge tanda di tabung nala kheba shira suyo maris kains na kurangi alanine suyo di chadyo res amino gyur thana shi G la gyuroina ge GCG la dige alanine ranja suyo res.
So if this is how the protein should look, even with that change, the protein still looks okay.
Ta dinde roji by nas amino gyur ra dige tigar dinde stupgi oi nas ta tanda gyur dro ra di gyur dro ina ge amino cure rangja de res alanine cheza tigar dinangshi niba dige tigar tharan sures.
But if this little change happens, instead of AGA, it's AAA, it's a different amino acid gets put in the chain.
Gyo dela thebe nas chashan. The AGA do G sabla A lewa nas ta di gyo dora. Di drudugala ani amino curla gyo dosares. The gand AGA na di sugures. AAA na and the amino cure di niba di sugures.
And in this case, it might make a protein that doesn't look right and is all bent up and can't function.
Di laduta di gyo stosa. Di drudu amino cure drudu and tigar jela drudugala tigar minda ostugures. Thambo di da loga chaswa. Di indugala ani khugya da dinde lega chele di takta chimmato dinde kangi tigures.
And there is an example we'll discuss later of where a single amino acid change has a very big effect.
Ngara zu jela jangires khari por shingir lawana amino cure chik jebar gurwale jiuthewale ani shugen khandes tigyu mejora di.
And that's the case of sickle cell anemia.
Di ladu ngara zu mi na la naza jura sickle cell anemia la tugyon di kangi di tigures.
A representation, it's colored, but it's, I hope you can see it, these are our 23 pairs of chromosomes.
Ta mi ngara zu mi na la ani chobong khajur lawana cha nyus sasum yorlan sheras digi thanda pesun ro chön sha jodi cha dures chönra tang sheres.
This is a pair, this is a pair. These chromosomes were caught when the cell is dividing, and that's when they're easy to see. So this is,
Di ladu da thanda chobong di dingi cha dures kana shi dingi cha dures and dinzo khadus thong tur lawana thanda chobong di kha khe ga so ani chobong di se thabong di kha khe ra di ga so an chobong di se thong tu dures.
and by shapes and by certain kinds of dyes, you can very accurately line up pairs.
Thana shi ani thanda chön de zo pheju chini ra chöje en yora de zo pheju chini ani thanda cha den zo ani nyam do dige res.
Sometimes in my hospital, when a baby is born with a problem, they'll get some chromosomes from its cheek and try to see if there was a mix-up in the chromosomes.
Dilo de ani thanda pu chinju ki ra de ke ma tha den zo ani khoran chu tambe ne thabong den zo le ni ani chromosome den zo tagyo res khari kyen dos landi chromosome den zo dig ne tagyo res khron zo.
You can see one pair doesn't look anything like it. They're not twins. They look very different. This is a pair of chromosomes.
Ta di changma cha do dos ine chik cha di mindo cha de res.
This pair is what determines our gender.
Di thanda cha ji do di khari tangji chigur law na ngaro jo pho mo la jura di yo chi res.
So except for the three of us here, everyone here has an X and a Y.
Ta ngara sumpi ni sindanal ra manju sumpi ni shimba sangma la chromosome khari la na di X ta Y res thabona.
Karma, Megan, and I have two X's. Two of these.
Megan che ani moran che ani nga che ngaju sum khari la na X ni res.
So we have a little more DNA than you. And on the Y chromosome, I think there's only about 90 genes, whereas there's about 1,000 on the X.
Diladu ngadra sum la DNA tis manga res. Ta dinata oina Y ro cha shaona gene rigze gupchu res. And ngara zo X dinal ta oina chigdon has res.
Okay, let's see, next slide. Animals in general, then, so this is a depiction of the two chromosomes that this man has, one from his mother, one from his father.
Ta dinala mi chik tön res par dinala. Di mi digi chromosome sobong cha di tön res. Di chik di khari chungor lana phane yonga che phane rawa che chromosome chik my chromosome di chungor my sobong di chungor res.
Likewise, this woman has this chromosome, one copy from her mother, one from her father.
Ta di kemen phumej chungor res. And they like sobong cha ji res. Chik di khar lana phane chungwe da shu chue sobong di chungor res. Chik di mani da shu chromosome my sobong da shu chue chungor res.
When they have children, that'll be a way actually to sort of speed up evolution.
It will speed up evolution.
Yeah, it gives evolution some chances.
Okay. Ta Quran nyam do theo ena pomo di pu chungures and digi ta thanda ngajul khari di chugur lana ani thanda phelgyur chunga ya digala ti si rewaji chagi res.
I have plants at home. I like to garden. If a plant's doing good, I can cut off the tip of some plants, put it in water, it gets roots, and I can have another plant just like the first one, no mother, no father, just it's a asexual reproduction, we call it.
Ta tanda chishing ro cha shaw na ngjo gang di che chamje youtube ne ni ma chuna lu shaw na chawa thung da ga she dinde che yan tap che ras dila dugal dila pha ma ni ga gu yo mares.
This is called sexual reproduction. So let's see what could happen. When this man is making he can give to his offspring the chromosome from his father or his mother to his offspring, as can the woman from the mother or the father.
Dila dugal da kurani pu chungwa nasra ta kurani thanda di phani di phadi cha deura di madira dineni ya kurangi phada magi tashu chigyo chik chigora dinini yana pha yana mani ywa tashu chigyo dinini chik pugdil dugres thana shi mani ya dini yora ni ni ya chubung chik pugdil dugres tashu di.
So this child can get his grandfather or his grandmother's chromosome from his father, and the same thing, he can get his grandfather or his grandmother's chromosome from his mother.
Dila de popo da momo phani gyuni yongsi res ra thana shi mai gyuni yongsi res di pugdila.
So you can see this boy got a they're marked blue or white, right? So he got this chromosome from his father and this one from his mother, and he has this combination. His sister has a different combination. His brother has a different combination, and his other sister has an even different combination of the possibilities, and this just happens randomly.
Ta thanda di pu shi tuen do di shi je pinja cha de ra kuran zin ba na khunju chobung ta we na pha gi thanda dingin cha sha we na yuen chogi di chobung dile do di che ani di ma ga ji chungyu res ma gi thanda dingin cha sha we na ni ba shi do chobung di kuran la ra res thana shi kuran gi pinja pu modil ta we na ge chobung min do cha de dos cha de thana shi pinja pu shemba dil ta we na an chobung min do cha de res an pinja pu mo shemba dil ta de ya min do cha de res di khandes chawol la na ngeje maim ba gi trodan cha de res ngeje mares di trodan.
If this couple could have 1,000 children, you could see that there might be equal numbers of each combination.
Dilo de pugu chikton sto yo ena strata di pala damla dila pugu chikton yo ena dinde cha thwa yo si res ya khashe.
But it might be that each brother and sister end up with the same, it just is chance.
Dilo de da korani do yo ena da chance la na khandes lira
Random?
ta khogap ki dinde cha sha juro ya do chwe yo si res kabe.
So the man will produce sperm, and women will have egg. It just depends which combination runs into which.
Dilo de ta khande dugu me ngeje yo mares phani kharili ge me mani khari me duye jora di du ngeje mares trodandi.
So that's sexual reproduction. Many simple cells don't have that chance, so they just divide their DNA and make 2 more daughters that are exactly like the parent.
Ta thabung tab de den ro cha sha nas di thabung kyang de resra di indu gala khora kha ke ni khaju sur la na na jung thabung ni su res.
So you can see in sexual reproduction, genes get a chance to mix up more than in this manner.
Di imbaina chik rang ne yungu do asra dila asexual reproduction lagi res bhajo imbaina poda modo dila du gala ya de di ngeje yo mares.
This is also the same idea in a cell called a paramecium, I think.
Di thabung di cha sha na thabung di mingla paramecium lagi res di gi thanda kha ge dan pe yu di kebel do dan di cha de res.
Even though sometimes simple bacteria have a chance to exchange a little bit of DNA.
Dila du da tab de soja da thabung bacteria ro cha sha ne khona ju nang lo tis yama jelin che jora zigze di yungu res.
And bacteria are dividing every 20 minutes, so they get a lot of chances because their time is so quick to perfect their DNA.
Dila du khona ju DNA di ta yunga la ani khogap ya ra res khaina na kam ni shu na la khujo kebel du res.
I had a lecture from a very smart guy, a Nobel laureate once, about evolution. Sorry? I had a lecture from a very smart person who was a Nobel Prize winner about this idea.
Tanda pelgur gi kor la ra ani tamshe ya bu jus di Quran tanda Nobel singda thobni den ji cha de res.
And by the end he had me convinced that bacteria were the highest form of life because they could adapt so quickly to their environment.
Dila du da bacteria do di cha thasin bacteria do cha shawna Quran tanda tunjur che da tanda chikyora pelgur na la Quran kewa roji ditsi res koran.
So here again is a chromosome that's got it's getting ready to divide, and it's got DNA in it, as you know. This says gene 1 and gene 2.
Tadi chobong di chungyo res, an chobong di nanglo khariyo lana DNA res, di DNA di chunche. An DNA koran nal rigze thangbo rigze niwa lan tuyo res.
I tried to take this out. Genes are not this short. Genes are millions of those base pairs together facing each other.
Ta thaingo la pulsung la ni nyam do chas suyos. Dila duga di rigze la du dinala chunju shtung das dende yo maris. Chidang khariyo lana thanda pulsung de jo saya nyam do yo dende tu de jo dende chadyo res rigze lana.
But it was too hard last night to change the Tibetan, so. So here's a chromosome, and here's the one from the mother, and here's the one from the father. So you have two choices for any gene there's two copies of every gene from each different ancestor. So in this chromosome pair, one chromosome has a gene for blue eyes and the other for brown. They're both genes for eye color, and they both are human being genes, just came from different parents. So depending on your ancestors, you may only have a copy of brown-eyed in both your chromosomes. Or both your chromosomes may carry just for blue. These duplicate versions of genes are called alleles. So this person has two alleles for blue, this person has two alleles for brown. This person has an allele for blue and an allele for brown. And we'll talk about this more when we get to Mendel, but this person has more possibilities, perhaps, for what colors eyes their children might be.
Sorry?
This person may have more possibilities for eye color in its children. I know, for example, I have brown eyes, but I know I have a blue allele. My guess is most of you have two brown alleles. So just a few minutes left, maybe it's time for questions. The main thing is DNA is our genetic material. Whether it always was is not clear. DNA can reproduce itself and pass it to daughter cells. And when it's unwound, its individual genes spell out, it's the blueprint for everything that happens in our cells. When DNA is copied from generation to generation, there may be mistakes that can be part of the mechanism of evolution. And all organisms alive now have DNA as their genetic material.
Diladu ta nganzu kingwe ta waina khande jingba ne koran chu rigze gyucha ta waina ma DNA chadu res.
And questions, please.
Ani tuwa yo esta.
Megan will be happy to answer them.
Niga koran niga tu Ling gegins. Mebochik legi. So we say that we are all from a common ancestor, and we have, like in humans we see blue eyes and brown eyes. So does this gene, like, was it there from the beginning, or has it changed during the time course?
Bacteria don't have genes for eye color.
The tasin bacteria do chashawainas koransula migi kadogi tanda rixejura dio mares.
The amount of DNA a bacterium has is very small compared to ours.
Ani bacteria na ta tasin bacteria na ta na koranzu rixe di mangnu jura mi da duro na nyunyu shuj res. And there's a second part of this question.
Okay, but every cell in your body has a gene for eye color.
Ne kiranzu tabu na la da rixe ta na ani migi khado khari me jura di rixe di yo res.
And a second question part?
So tuwa thambo seo chase lenthe se. So where does this gene for eye color?
First you have to have eyes to have a gene for eye color.
The migi khado gore la jura migi khado kshola thambo mi gugu res kimedila.
As organisms change, this is such a long time scale. As organisms change, their DNA changes. My DNA is a little bit different from yours, but our DNA is very different from a simple organism. The genes are. The DNA is the same.
Kingwe de juor du which you ras to zurimo shu gorgo res. The kingwe de juor du gal koran zu rigze juor du res. Ani ngaran zu nita oina rigzel khabar yo res ine shemba nyiri shemba de du oina yang ngaran da che koran.
Bacteria don't even have chromosomes like ours. Our DNA is protected by proteins and condensed and has certain chemicals around them. A bacteria's DNA is just very simple and more naked.
Diladu nganzu gi DNA da tasin bacteria DNA ta ona kheba shu res. Nganzu DNA imbaina dudul dilat da tigar da dindi tumni tembu shasha yus cha res. Bacteria do shimba tasin bacteria do cha shawana kunzu gi DNA di ta tomba roji.
Your question is perfect, though, because there's a famous quote by Darwin. He's trying to explain evolution, and he says to think that a structure like our eye just evolved sort of by chance is almost impossible to understand.
Dindeji shares ani di khandes chare la jora di ani gochhe ta khabudoji chadirlan korangi shares.
And that's when we have to remind ourselves how long it took to get to what we are.
Diladu ta nganju thanda khande imbadi di chaila khagas kore la jora khagas kore la di tiwadi ligi res ringbu shu goroji si res.
But about where new genes come from, sometimes cells make a mistake when they're copying the DNA, and instead of making one copy of a gene, it makes another copy. So there's two copies of that gene now.
The cover kachulana tabung korana nindushoni the rigze digi dashu chidugal dashu chik machi che dashu ni chigyo res. Diladuta dashu chik sabla ni chadu res.
So now that the cell has two copies of that same gene, it keeps one of them the same to do its original function, but the other one is free to evolve and change over time to have a new function.
Dila dugalta tanda Quran rigze gi tashuni sueras chik di kharch bolana günde kharch gi chawa jora di thagaran dures ta niwa di thewa indu Quran ani pegu droni ani chawa shimba chya di kusugu res.
So that's a common way that new genes can be made. So perhaps there was a gene that made color for skin, it got copied, and now that gene changes and can make color in the eyes.
Dila duda rigze chi gi khaz nien dewa imbai na ngama kharch gi lawa na anda pakbe gi khado di rigze cha de res anjel tuju rudu balata tashuni chira ani jela khari char lawa na mi gi khado rigze cha de jo dinde yong si res.
Maybe one more question before tea?
And ani kyang gi tu di tu re pheba di tanga. So he asked like in Western countries many Tibetans go there, right? So if there is a mix between just the Tibetan like two Tibetans, so if it continues, so we have brown eyes, so if there is a mix between just Tibetans only, so will there be a possibility that the siblings, like the children later on after some time, will they have blue color? Is there a possibility? If there's just a mix between Tibetans only.
There is some notion that the color of the eye, like if you go to Norway, everybody is blue-eyed up there in that cold, dark climate.
Ta chashona Norway la saja juya di droinas pai namshi thamu yores am pai gi mirik ta wana khunju mi khari la na mi ngombu res thame.
And you go to Africa, dark eyes.
Ani Africa droinas ani mi napu res thame.
I went to my eye doctor and he said I'm getting cataracts.
Ani thanda mi gi thanda di yora member Quran dam rudugal kharishes la na mi gla tip jili ya timba do di ani durla ni shesons.
He said I have to have glasses so when I go outside it gets very dark so the sun doesn't damage my eyes.
Mi tin yo ani Quran la thanda di thanda mi she din su tene ani nime yo gi ne yo ma che chi do ani member ina sonsra.
So the eye color clearly seems to have a protection maybe from where the sun is very strong.
Dila do ani nime yo la ta sungyob che chi do ya mi gi khado di do yo si res.
Maybe if a colony of Tibetans moved to Norway and started by random having a child with blue eyes, maybe there would be no more pressure from the environment to stay brown.
Sorry?
When the pressure from the environment is off, then your traits may change.
Dila do ta khoryo gi nu shu jura di mewa ina an kherang gi thanda khenam jura kheda di gyo do si res.
Any other way to explain that? Good.
So we think originally people had brown eyes, and then somebody had a mutation, an unexpected change in their DNA that resulted in blue eyes.
Dila dugal ta mi gyamu yo achera ine hopta me khari chungwa ta peshawana lobur gi thanda nganju gi DNA lo gurdo duda tende draw ina mi gombu yong si res.
We think the first humans came out of Africa.
Thangbo mi ta gyamu yor la jora di ni mi draw mi rik thangbo di ani Africa ne chungwa jinga zo itsi res.
So people that have two alleles for brown eyes, we do not expect to have children with blue eyes. It would be very rare for that random change in DNA to happen when two people have a kid.
Dila duta poda moni nyam do jawana ni ga bi gyamu imbainas pugu gyamu ran ki yores taine thanda jurdo joy di khapu shu yores ta cheza andi thoya khapu yores ngombu gyamu lo ngombu ke di.
But we think that that rare event is what happened in our history and created some people with blue eyes, and in certain environments where there's very little sunlight, it's an advantage to have light-colored eyes.
Dila zo thanda jurdo joy di ne ngara zo login ta wa na store mi login ta na di chung yores cheza mi ngombu da gyamu thoya dos. Ntana shi ani koryo gi ne shu thanda dila kheba duer la ros an nima yo shira mesa roina ani Quran zul kheben khari la na miktis thanda ngombu ri juda den yo na kheben che yo za digi gyo di to res la di shi yo res chi.
Good questions.
Tyo ya go dos nzo.
Tea break.
Thanda soja passing to sims.